being my gracious hosts. It's always a pleasure to come back here. We've been reminiscing about, in the early days of my DSP presidency, I actually found out I was expecting during the nationals that were the AGM was held at Learning Alliance, and then my infant used to come with me when nationals were being held at Learning Alliance again. So I have lots of sentimental attachments to this auditorium, to Learning Alliance in general. My sentimental attachment to debates is pretty well documented, I think. I was on the Pakistan team in 1992 and 1993. I was not one of Mrs. Rahman's students because I was a student at Kinnaird College. I was already terrified of her because the first time I remember seeing her, Kinnaird College has an auditorium which has about a similar seating capacity, I would say. And I was amongst the first years. First years did not get to sit on chairs. You had to sit on the floor, on the carpet. And we were sitting there, and suddenly, and she was this tall, erect woman who एक झाड़ बताई हम सबको, क्योंकि पता नहीं क्या हम लोग एक हल्ला गुल्ला हो रहा था जब के तमीज से बैठा होना चाहिए था, और उन्होंने एक फिक्रे में सबको खामोश कर दिया। और आप लोगों को खुद भी अंदाजा होगा कि जब आपका खामोश होने का दिल नहीं चाह रहा होता, किसी का एक फिक्रे से खामोश करना, जिसको आप जानते ना हो, जिनको आप पहचानते हैं वो तो अलग बात है, लेकिन जिनको आप पहचानते ही नहीं है, लेकिन उन्होंने भी एक फिक्रे से सबको खामोश कर दिया, बड़ी बात थी। मेरा ज्यादा ताल्लुक मिसेस रहमान से मगर उस वक्त हुआ जब मैं डीएसपी की सदर बनी। कुछ ना कुछ उससे पहले एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी पे काम करते हुए, नेशनल्स को ऑर्गेनाइज करते हुए उस वक्त होता था। वो पहले जज भी करती थी, मैं नेशनल टीम को कोच कर रही थी, तो उस वक्त भी वो मुसलसल कैंप का हिस्सा होती थी, आके बच्चों को शाबाशी भी देती थी, डांटती भी थी। और हम लोगों का एक तरफ से तो ये शफकत का एक्सपीरियंस था, but I think one of the things that those people who didn't work closely in a professional capacity with her didn't know about her was how very practical she was, along with being extremely principled. It's an unusual combination to be extremely diplomatic when it's required, and yet to have a very clear sense of कि भाई ये ऐसे नहीं चल सकता, हम ऐसे नहीं मान सकते because this would involve compromising on an important principle, but we can do this instead जिससे वो भी खुश हो जाएंगे. And for someone like me, and people who have known me for a long time, I remember a long time ago them who saying कि तुम तो बस बात कह देती हो. तो हाँ, मेरी आदत तो यही है कि मैं तो बस बात कह देती हूँ, जो है वो है. बट ये मैंने मिसेस रहमान से सीखा कि आप बात कह भी सकते हैं और ऐसे कह सकते हैं कि दूसरे बुरा ना माने, दूसरे आपकी बात समझ जाएं, और वो आसान चीज नहीं है सीखना. तो for me, she was someone who I used as a touchstone. I knew that she expected me to be my best self. There were multiple occasions, and I wrote this when I was writing about her when she passed away. Multiple times the situation would be that she would say, well, here's this issue, you are president, you have to resolve it. And it was an issue in which she had an interest, but she would step back and say, I know you'll do the right thing. And that's it. After that, she wouldn't ask me about it. She would exert no pressure on me about it. But the pressure of, I know you will do the right thing, was huge. It's one I carry with me. Taimur was talking about how she lives on in all of you, in all of us. And that's true. If people have learned something from me, that's in part because of what I've learned from her. And this endeavor, I think it's very difficult for us in a very connected world to understand how revolutionary it was for kids who had grown up in Zia's Pakistan to go to an international competition. लोगों को पाकिस्तान का नाम नहीं मालूम होता था उस वक्त. That's not true anymore. Post 9/11, and certainly post Osama bin Laden being assassinated in Abbottabad, people know about Pakistan. But अभी तो हमने न्यूक्लियर टेस्ट्स भी नहीं किए थे. लोगों को पाकिस्तान के बारे में नहीं पता था. The fact that we were there as ambassadors was something we were expected to take very seriously. But also, having conversations one-on-one with people who we would never see eye to eye with on matters of principle or politics. हमारी सबसे ज़्यादा दोस्ती इस्राएल की टीम से थी. For years. Now remember, of course, that in 1992 and 93, Yitzhak Rabin was still alive. The Oslo talks were happening. There was a real optimism in the world about the possibility of a just resolution of this conflict. So I understand that it's a very different situation than the one that 18 and 19-year-olds would face today. Nevertheless, people are people. And it is only when we talk to each other as people that the possibility of a just peace arises. It isn't possible to come to a just peace without a conversation. And the world today is much more well-connected, of course. But at the same time, you have the illusion of connection because you are constantly behind this wall of virtual space and of presenting oneself. And that's very different from sitting down and talking. It's almost a joke that, people under the age of 30, the worst thing you can do to them is call them on the phone and actually ask them to have a real conversation in person instead of just texting. So there's a real desire to have your conversation be mediated. That mediated conversation automatically puts up a wall. So today, the space that we needed just because we didn't have the possibility of talking to people from across the world is needed because you have the illusion of talking to people from across the world. And the hope for the world always lies in real human connection. Mrs. Rahman was very aware of that. Karachi se bachche unke ghar aake ठहरते थे, होटलों में नहीं ठहरते थे. रजी साहब के घर आके ठहरते थे, होटलों में नहीं ठहरते थे. जब पाकिस्तान इंडिया की डिबेट्स कराने की कोशिश, तैमूर was a big part of that. So Mrs. Rahman was one of the people who spearheaded that, trying to get connections with the schools in India to make sure that those conversations could happen. And again, I think we have a tendency to be quite cynical about the possibility of a better world in which we actually do get along. And I don't think you can hope for a world of real justice or a world of real humanism if every person doesn't have a place in it. And that's tough. Because every person is not necessarily someone you like. And sometimes with very good reason. But again, I come back to the lesson from Mrs. Rahman. कि धड़ से बात कर देना काफी नहीं होता है. Until you get to the point that you can persuade your opponent, there is no real victory. So when you come here and you make these speeches that are so analytical, and you tell the judges exactly why you've won, always remember that it only counts if everyone in the audience believes you. Because those are the people who are actually going to go do something. The judges, they'll put some marks on a piece of paper. But did you say something that changed someone's mind today? That should be your standard. That is what this is about. Thank you.